I am super excited to introduce our next speaker. She is here visiting us from Portland. She has an impressive collection of 3 master's degrees and a PhD, which she uses to do things like create amazing reaction GIFs. She's also one of the organizers of Big Data PDX. I'd like to welcome Melissa Santos.
Thanks, everyone. It's pretty exciting to be here. Is this working? Can you hear me? It's not working at all. How's the magic work?
There's usually a button
on the top.
Oh. Aha! Is this working? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to talk about how the DevOps line is fuzzy, which all of you people who are used to DevOps are probably just like, well, duh. But I'm also going to talk about how my background is not in DevOps, and so it's been interesting coming to this realization over the last several months. But I'm also, as I give you my background, I'm going to introduce you to my terrible sense of humor. So it is also fuzzy in our case because our team is covered in pet hair. So definitely have some fuzziness going on. So my background is in data. I'm totally a data nerd. I've been in tech since 2001, but I've always gravitated to the data end of the team. I've written the ETLs, I've done the dashboards, things like that. I've put things in production, but they're usually not things that have a lot of end users that have lots of moving spaces. And I put myself through grad school in data stuff by working at IBM and at startups. So back in 2001, it was pre-DevOps. I did some Googling. DevOps supposedly started in 2007. So it's a new thing. But when I started, ops was still like up here. We were all like, okay, we gotta do what ops says. We like having access to our machines. We're gonna behave. We're at the tail end of that like bastard operator from hell era. Like things were horrible for ops, and so they made sure that they were respected. And I get that. It's fine. And I didn't just think about it for this presentation. I was talking about this the other day on Twitter because I was in a room with both operations people, I'm usually sucking up to as much as possible, and data center technicians who, it turns out, now that I know that they're close to my power button, they're the people I really want to make sure we're happy in that room. But I get both of them in a ring. I want the people who have my hardware, people I want to keep happy. And I think that some of that does come from like this old school, early aughts before that, when ops was people that you had to appease in some ways. So I escaped IBM. I went to startup land for a little while. And I also think that there was this era in like the aughts where we started having, we didn't have the rockstar developer thing so much. We had the heroes who ran in and put out fires, but we weren't like looking for ninja devs and crap like that. And that's just the rise of the devs. It was this weird startup land where they're like, we don't need to scale, we're going to get acquired. Why would we want to scale? We don't need ops for that. We're just going to pull some AWS instances and give Amazon some money, it's fine. So I'm really happy that I've landed at Etsy, where we have DevOps, and it's a lot more balanced. I very particularly wanted a seesaw for this because of how precariously it's balanced. I wanted to emphasize that it's balanced by the people on it, that the slightest motion changes the balance, and that it changes all the time. So that's what I mean by the DevOps line is fuzzy, is that it's a continual working together to figure out what you need to be doing on this stuff. So how did I end up in this weird data background, like having to Google DevOps, standing up here talking to you about DevOps days? So last September, I became a manager for the first time. I managed the data platform team. And shorthand, that's the Hadoop infrastructure team. So they're close to ops. They do a lot of stuff with like, we have a lot of hardware. And I knew I'd be a manager at some point, but I thought I would manage data scientists or analysts or something like that. But I worked with these guys. I was one of their main users. I knew all the stuff they did, and I appreciated them. So when they were looking for a manager, it was really nice to be able to go, wow, yeah, I can help them out. I can get them the support they deserve and the attention they deserve. And then I got to learn how to work with ops better. And so did they. So there's much more to the org. If you catch me later, I'll draw however much of it you want. But data engineering sits within infrastructure. Data platform sits within data engineering. Data apps often sits between data engineering and the analysts. So we're like the closest edge of data to ops. We have most of the hardware, we cause most of the problems, things like that. And we don't usually interact too directly with the analysts unless I only need this data that I can get into Hadoop, help. we're close to ops. As far as my end users are concerned, I'm responsible for the cluster being up. I manage the team that is responsible for the cluster being up. They don't care whether the data center is down or the RAM has gone out or what. They just need to know they want their cluster, they want their data, and that's my problem. And we have to work together with ops. Like, we have to for things like ordering hardware and setting things up and, hey, that DIMM went bad, please can someone fix it. So a lot of the time when we do have problems, that some of them are just like hardware issues or weird permissions issues where somebody changed a DNS setting or whatever. So there's a lot of overlap when we need to work together to get things fixed. This might feel like a tangent, but I'm going to go on and on about how much I think teams are important and how much I love the way Etsy is set up to do teams. So this is from the Etsy seller. They sent it to our engineering org. And one of the things that's awesome about Etsy is that we are completely aligned with our sellers. They make money, we make money. It's really nice to have the finances that clearly laid out. And so to some extent, we're a 600-something people org, or we're a 200-something engineering group, but we're also supporting 1 million small businesses around the world. So we're, in many ways, we're a much bigger company than we look or we seem, because we are one team with all of these users everywhere. And I like to try and keep everybody focused on that, even though we're deep in infrastructure. The users do not see my team, thankfully. But that means we also still have to work together within Etsy to do this. Like, we all have the same goal on the big scale, so let's all have the same goal on the small scale so that we can get there. So I spent a sleep-deprived flight a couple of weeks ago thinking about what I really meant by a team and what mattered to me about a team. And I wanted to make the distinction that, like, a team is together for a short period of time, relatively. This is not family, it's not forever. You're together while you share a common cause. While you have a goal to do together and that goal matches your personal goals, cool, you're a team and you're going forward together. I like to win. I have to get cooperative board games so that people will continue to play board games with me. So I was going to use a sports metaphor and I realized that was actually very much the wrong metaphor. This is like an RPG metaphor. Winning at teams is about leveling up all your individuals. It's about completing quests. It's about getting things done and feeling that sense of accomplishment and knowing that you help each other get there. But I want to emphasize that we are not an aggregation. We are more complex than that. We have people, there's that mix of skills and strengths, and you need to acknowledge that about each other and learn about that from each other so that you can actually make sure you know enough to use the right things from each other. And trust, while I think it's a really important part of teams, I want to emphasize that it's really hard to get and it's slow to come. I think the people connections are really the most important. You need to understand each other and what you want. And you won't know if your goals are aligned unless you're able to talk about your goals. Hopefully you all want to get the quest completed, get the project done. But at some point, maybe you want to know, well, so-and-so wants to learn more about this, let's put him on this project doing that. So-and-so wants to do some more mentoring, let's make sure he gets the mentoring. Things like that. By knowing each other and knowing where you want to go, you can help each other get there. Trust is so important. Trust is so important in teams, but you can't get it fast. The only advice I have for you for speeding up the trust process is to get your feedback loop as tight as possible. Give people opportunities to say what they're going to do and to show that they've done it. And just have that happen, it's going to happen over time. The only thing you can do is increase those opportunities and get them closer together in time. But, yeah. So to have decent-sized things, it's just going to take time. So to some extent, I'm saying you're not ever going to have a good team very quickly, because to build trust is going to take time.
So how do you break that barrier? Is it just trying?
You just do it. You accept that it takes time. You invest. Okay, that was the end of my rant about teams. This is a team of data plan. Bye. One more, my big emphasis on humanity and individuality. It doesn't matter whether these people are dev or ops. There are a whole bunch of people who work for Etsy and are getting things done, working towards the same goal. They're all humans. They're not resources. There's not a wall between them. There's no line in the sand that says who should do what. So my goal for you today so that you will go away with a handful of little things that you can use to get better at working with people. Whether it's like working with one person on your team or working with larger teams or cross teams, hopefully some of these techniques will be useful for you. And they're all going to sound really big on the screen. So you should ask people what they want to do for you and how much time and effort they have to spend on you. So either the people in your team are like the people who are your ops partners or the people in your teams that have expertise you need. You can have conversations with them like, hey, what's the best way to ask you questions? Do you like getting email? Should I find you on IRC? I don't want to waste your time. Would you feel good about doing like a 1-hour session for my team to explain this to all of us? How about some pair programming? Would that work for you? Is there anything we do that you'd like to learn more about? So just finding out these things about the other people so that you're learning their goals and you're helping them achieve them at the same time. Similarly, you cannot read my mind. You do not know what is going on in my brain all the time, and so I need to be loud and tell you, guess what, guys? I'm going to get a new cluster next week. I'm so excited. What? You said I could. Anyway, I'm so excited. So you need to share your worries and your excitements and what's coming up with you so that people see it coming. If I was not this excited about it, perhaps my ops team would not be putting a lot of emphasis on making sure that it got racked very quickly and things were going and how to get it quickly. But since I've been very clear for several months in this team, I think we're going to get that going. I like this open door, because I think that as a team, you want to be inviting, and maybe as an individual, and I work remote, so maybe this is part of it too, just being able to say, hey, I'm here to talk. I'm here for you, I want to be a part of things with you. Someone on my team asked if he could buy candy to keep in our Brooklyn office near his area so that people would come and ask them questions. I was like, yes, and if the company does an expensive for you, if they reject the expense thing, I will pay for it. It's totally fine. Yes, it would be that he wanted to do something active to make the team be inviting is like exactly the sort of thing I'm hoping for here. Just including people, letting people know they're allowed to be part of your team, that you're not putting up those individual walls saying, we're just over here, we don't want to talk to you. You just open up a little. It's a fun one. You get to work with all these other people. They help. They help when you work with them. It's so cool. Like, you should tell them and like tell their managers and like make sure that your manager knows that this person did so much cool stuff. And like, just get the word out that they did great stuff. And I'm not sure like if this is like an accurate definition of collaborate, but what I mean by collaborate is be able to sit in the same room and talk about your needs and be able to figure out the trade-offs. It's really tempting to be like, well, this is what I want. I want my new cluster up now. I can't have that. So we have to talk about what is the best trade-off for me, what I want versus the other people who have needs and what else is going on in the world. And being able to sit down and go, oh, well, that part's going to be much harder for you. Well, what if we do this instead? Being able to actually have it be a dialogue makes a big difference. Here's some data block by collaborating. So how's this worked out with my team? So my team is me in Portland, and I have 4 developers, 1 in Seattle, 1 in Minneapolis, and 2 in Brooklyn. And until I made this slide, I did not realize quite how large my ops team was in comparison to the rest of my team. I have 1 primary designated ops, a secondary designated ops, and 3 advisory ops. I think Hadoop is just cool out there if you want to know what we're doing. That's a lot of advisory. So designated ops is not working solely with my team. They tend to have lots of other teams they're working with as well. I don't even know how many, which probably should. But they're like the first person I would talk to, or the first person someone else in ops would talk to about something that's going on with my team. They're the most likely contact for that. So they're kind of like, as we go down, they're further away from my team and less likely to be included in everyday activities. So when I took on this team back in September, they were getting past some of this. Some things were going better, but it felt like firefighters. It felt like data janitors. It People referred to us as the Hadoop police. I was like, we're just needing HDFS space back, y'all. Don't you understand? Cascading node failure. And the thing that I heard a lot of was we wish we could do less ops work. And we had to figure out how to tackle that. And now things are so much better, y'all. We're exploring data technologies, we're looking ahead, we're teaching people. We do a monthly session where we invite people to come learn how to use our stack, and either do infrastructure things or learn how to get data out. We started doing learning sessions on alternate Fridays that we're trying to figure out how to do better and who we should invite to. So we're figuring out how we can expand the knowledge about what we do and help out and be a lot more proactive of a team. And instead of feeling like ops work is just a thing that we're stuck with, we feel like it's something that we are empowered to do. We are able to do some of it, but it's something we can work with ops to get it done. We can have a dialogue and figure out who should do it or what makes sense, who's busy right now. And it's fun. It's fun to pair with ops. It's way better than just not talking to them and being sad they don't do things that you didn't tell them you wanted done. So I took my designated ops aside, and we were first trying to figure out how to do less ops work. And I wanted to do this privately because I didn't want to give the team's hopes up a whole lot. And I said, what do you want to learn more about Hadoop? Do you want to do more Hadoop stuff? How much time do you have in a week? I know you have other teams and other projects. How much time do you have for us? What's kind of typical? I asked, what would you like to do? What would be better for you for working with us? What would be good? So just finding out what her capacity was gave us a lot more ability to go, oh, well, now that I know what your capacity is, I can volunteer as my team and say, oh, you can work with our ops person. If I just told them that before finding out that she had time, I would be a bad person. She seems to be doing okay. The mailing list for my team is totally open. Anyone on Etsy can read it. There's at least one person on the mailing list who has never worked closely with my team. And he gets all my emails, and that's fine. He knows what's going on with my team if he's reading them. Fine. Good. Know what's going on. If you're interested, great. One of the things we did a Monday status meeting, we've always done a Monday status meeting where we go around and what is everyone doing this week. And after a while, we realized we could make it more efficient and more likely to cover all the things we wanted to if we had an agenda, as well as doing the go round. We want to go, what else are we going to cover this week? What do we want to talk about as a team? And we put it in a Google Doc and made it editable by everyone and viewable by everyone, which means that if you're, say, one of my advisory ops, you can look at the agenda and decide whether you want to come this week. They're talking about code review practices. Cool, done it there. Ooh, new cluster planning. So by making it an open thing, and anyone can edit it, so you could also be one of those people and be like, they really need to think about the networking for their new cluster. I'm going to put that on their agenda and show up to a meeting. So it's something that you can see what we're worried about, but you can also contribute to it. Of course, I have one-on-ones with all of my direct reports, but I also have a one-on-one with my designated ops. Every 2 weeks, we have half an hour to talk about what's going on, what's coming down the pipe, what I'm worried about, what she's worried about, figuring out what's going on, and being able to work together on it, and just kind of having that time to be really honest about what we're scared about. Also, if you come to my status meetings, you often get pie. This is salted pie made by my very own Chuck Ha.
That's brilliant.
I invite that whole open mailing list to meetings. Sometimes I'm pretty sure they hate me for it, but anytime we have a team meeting, I was like, you're on our list. You said you were interested. Okay, you're welcome to come. We're going to be planning what we're going to do to compare SQL and Hadoop technologies. Sure, if you like it. But anytime we have a team meeting, I want everyone who's interested to at least know that it's going on and feel like they're allowed to be part of it. And it's fun to include ops in some of our other things. As you can see, Catherine helps us escape the room in New York, previous outing. And this is what it's like to work with me. You have actual tickets where you need to make sure that you understand which dog breed the current cluster is named after by being able to see the ASCII error version. It's a very real ticket. I'm really glad I wrote the other slides first. So when I copied them and said, oh, how am I doing these? I got to credit and I was like, oh, Catherine knows I think she's great, but I haven't bragged on her enough to everyone else. So bragging now, but I also should directly brag to her manager and my manager and stuff like that. But I should come up with some more effective ways of making sure that I'm giving credit both to my designated ops and to the advisory ops and the work they're doing for us. But I'm really glad that I got to think about it and go, damn, I don't have any success stories for this one yet. But she doesn't seem that upset with us. We did get both a new Ganglia server and some talk about how we should do PubSec. So I have a couple of instances on how we've collaborated effectively. The new cluster, which you know I'm so excited about. That's involved a lot of collaboration about talking about. I know what we're hitting now, what our performance problems are, and where we're running into bounds. I don't know what the current hardware is going to do to fix that, so I have to work with ops to be like, what seems reasonable? What can we do within our budget to handle the fact that we're maxing out on RAM all the time? Cool, let's do these things. And we're also moving data centers this year, so I had to move my whole cluster. There's a lot. We've had some very interesting talks about that. I thought at the first meeting, I was like, why am I in this? I don't know anything about this. But we've had like 3 30-minute conversations about like timing and how it should work out, and we've had some surprises when you ask people what would be a pain point for you. Like, wow, I just said that in horrible manager speak. I think I actually said, how sad would that make you on a sad face emoji to rage face? And everyone was very surprised that they were not more angry than that. So we were able to base the plan around doing the thing that we thought the data center people were really unhappy about. They're like, it's not that bad, actually. But we wouldn't have known if we didn't ask. And that was the joy of having the meeting, is we had that opportunity to go like, wait, how hard is that constraint really? Like, I know it's not the best thing, but which of these are the worst? Which constraints can we move without hurting these worse than the others? We've had a not tremendously successful collaboration where we fought with LDAP very hard, and it told us error, success. Consistently. But I really appreciate that by collaborating with ops the entire time, it wasn't one of those things, because we did it as a collaboration, I know that we had the ops point of view. What are you doing? Computers. We had the ops point of view and we had the dev point of view, and so I know that we covered all those bases. We've done it one at a time. I think it would have taken longer to exhaust the possibilities of what we were actually able to do. So yay, collaboration! It was good.
Let's hear from presenter ops.
All right. This is a rosemary shoofly pie that Chet made for us. It was really good. So I'm going to end with, I'm really new at this. Like, I didn't come from DevOps land. I've only been a manager for like 7 months. This is just like what I've come up with in these last few months and that we've tried. I don't know if this is something I'm going to do in open spaces with later, or I just want to come talk to me, but I would love to gather ideas from everyone, make sure I get your name so that I can credit you and write a big blog post about all the things we've come up with to try and do better teams. So, thank you from all the data platypi and both of my teams.
Thank you, Melissa. Any questions from anyone?
Was that your podium photos earlier?
It's one of 2 of our regular office pugs. Yeah, we've got office pugs. Bridget.
Can you talk a little bit about the fact that you're in Portland, a lot of Etsy is distributed, but a lot of it's also in Brooklyn, and what it's like managing people that you aren't seeing in person all the time?
So the problem is that I've never managed people. Oh, yeah, talking about being a remote manager and how it's different when the company's in Brooklyn. I've never been a manager in person, but I don't know any better. It's fine. This is how we do it.
But how do you make sure you stay in touch with your team members?
So we have hour one-on-ones we stay in touch by hour-long one-on-ones every week. We don't always take the full hour, but one of my first goals was making sure they knew that was my job. I'm available to them. I have time for them. I need to deep in something before I'll blow off something that one of my team members needs. We meet up fairly regularly. We try and do it in person. It doesn't always work out. Somebody's broke his kneecap, so he's not going to be flying to New York anytime soon. But we're still like, we're gonna do a support rotation together, and we're gonna bring him in remotely so he can be part of it while we do it together. And just, yeah, we celebrate the end of technologies on video calls together. Weekly wrap-ups when we have boot campers, our video calls, we have a weekly status meeting. We're always in IRC.
How does one get a pie from Portland to New York?
Sadly, how does one get a pie from Portland to New York? Sadly, they just taught me the Brooklyn pie. They just stare at me and it's like, we have pie.
Oh.
We have never eaten pie on video in a meeting ever. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was so good.
So, you expressed, your 5 little sort of tenets of what you need to do to have a successful DevOps organization, right? How much of that was already existing in Etsy, and how much of that did you bring to the table? And the reason I'm asking this is that I'm part of a large organization, and there's a lot of silos right now between the dev and the ops and things like that. And these sort of concepts aren't there really, to be honest. And I think introducing those concepts and those ways of thinking could be a little difficult. So I want to know if you had that experience where that was already there, or is that something you brought in, and how difficult that was?
So I'm gonna try and sum up. I have like my 5 ideas on how to work together as a team. How did I get that from Etsy, or is that something I brought in? And was that difficult to bring in if it was mine? I think it was a thing that exists in pockets in Etsy. It is certainly not anything codified. Like nobody has written it down and like, cool, this is how we do better teams. Until now, I have to like save this. But they're open to it. We're a very question-friendly organization. So people are very happy to talk to you. And so I think I got away with it a lot easier than I might have back in my IBM days or something like that.
What would you recommend for a place with a much smaller, rather than having an ops team, you've got ops person. And ops person is doing everything. So how do you really, form a relationship on that basis when, some teams are going to need to use ops stuff more than others, but they're going crazy because the phones are on fire, the sales guys can't make calls.
So how do you handle it when your ops is oversubscribed?
Yeah.
You respect your ops. You remember that they're people, and you accept that maybe you're not the top priority. As much as that you're your own top priority, but you have to accept that you have to trust your ops people that they're doing the right thing, and they'll get to you when they can. They want to help you. You give them that support and that trust, and they'll repay it by getting to you when they can.
All right. If there's more questions, we can discuss this further during the open spaces. Thank you again, Melissa.